they can't tell you no. Like they can't tell you to stop. Like regardless of the obstacles, the challenges, the ups and downs, the hurts, the failures, they so closed, they almost made it. Regardless of what you're going through today, nothing can tell you to stop. Nothing can tell you to quit except you. Except you make that decision that you're not strong enough or smart enough or disciplined enough to pursue your dream, and then you decide to stop. So nothing can tell you to stop but you. You see, we only quit like when we decide like that's our last bus stop. We couldn't go further than that. We're not strong enough, we're not good enough, and then we throw in the towel. So nothing, no one can tell you to stop but you. So knowing from today on, like whatever you're going through, it's all up to you. No one is gonna come, hold your hands, or pull you back but you. Like they say, it's all in your head. You quit when you decide to know when you're tired. You quit when you make the decision. Everything we go through in life, it's always about decision. Decision to push harder, to push on, or to stop. Decision to take action now or to forgo your responsibilities. But it's all based on you. Sometimes it feels like you're not doing enough. Like maybe you're not, maybe you're doing your best, or maybe you actually believe you're doing your best, you're doing more than enough. But it doesn't seem like that's even cutting through. But the truth is, we all know when we're doing enough. We all know when we're not holding ourselves accountable. We all know when we're not playing our best hand or giving it our fullest. Or maybe, let's say, you believe or think you're doing enough. Like the easiest things to do is just to ask yourself, why? Like, what is your why? You know, they say if your why is big enough, you would find the how. You don't have to worry about how. If you have a reason you want to succeed, if you have a reason you want to become something, if you have a goal, if you have something you're going after, you don't actually worry about how. Once you have a big why, you need it, you would find a way. So what's your why? What's the reason you can't stop? What's the reason even you're giving up? What's holding you back? Like what's stopping you from pursuing your dream? What's holding you back from working harder? Is it because you don't want to take extra classes? Because you don't want to work on yourself? Because you don't want to improve? You see, when your why is the reason you live in, you would find a way to succeed. You will find a way to work. No one would be able to hold you back because your reason is bigger than whatever anyone could tell or bring to you. So I'm simply saying, is your why big enough that nothing can stop you? You see, sometimes we'll forgo our responsibilities. Things we think or things we believe are quite minimal, marginal, small, unimpactful. We're like, oh, just ignore this. You know, there's a lot of people who are believers in heaven and hell, you know, afterlife and what happens there. But they don't have any belief on earth here, like they have any impact. They could change anything. They could do anything to change their situation. Like they are basically giving off power. Like they've forgone their responsibility thereby forgoing their future. So you could say you're not a believer in politics, in government, but perhaps you are a believer in your own action. So what action have you been taking? Have you forgone your action? Because the actions you take would create the situation around you. And the action you don't take will do exactly the same thing, create the situation around you. So it's really up to you. Is it that you take action to create the kind of environment you want around you, or you forgo that same action for the environment you don't want to be created around you? So it really is up to you. So it's up to you. Is it that your courageous action or your cowardly action is creating the world around you? Like your heaven or your hell? It's your decision. You choose. It's your world. You're going to live in it anyway. So you decide to make it better for yourself or let someone else make it what they want for you. And remember the word of Theru. It says, if you don't think for yourself, people will think for you and not of you. So who have you allowed to be thinking for you? Who have you forgone your responsibilities to? A lot of people always say, you sold your soul to the devil and all that. So we actually do this not knowing, like we've forgone our soul, we've forgone our responsibility. We have given the power of authority onto someone else. And this is the only thing that separates you from an animal, the power to choose. Just like Viktor Frankl says, the last of the human spirit. Today, you see, when you wake up and just like a day, let's take a day. Like a day you get out of bed, you're stepping out of bed, putting your robe on, your slippers or whatever. So you've got the whole day to conquer. It's like the whole day, 24 hours or 18 hours or whatever, it's spread out in front of you, just like a bread spread, the field, the grass. So you could see as far as in the future into the day as you want. So is either the day is full of potentials or the things you plan to do, the dreams you go, or it's full of dread, like you don't feel like getting off in bed, you don't want to do anything. So the difference between you looking at a day as an opportunity against you looking at the day as a dread is planning. You see, when I have a to-do list, like the night before, when I get up in bed very early and I have so many things to do, like I can't wait for the day to come, because I know I'm dedicated this hour to this, that hour to this, like it's one after one after one. But the days where I have no to-do list, I'm just so like keep snoozing the alarm, keep snoozing the alarm, keep snoozing the alarm. So it's basically, have you been snoozing your alarm in life, or have you gotten a to-do list? Because you could take a day, analyze a day fully, and this is just exactly the same way we lead our lives. Exactly the same way you look at a day is exactly the same way you look at your life. Like, life is not meant to be easy, simple. No, of course, you could get there. But after a lot of work, sacrifice, life is like the hardest competition. And even those who you believe they've got it easy, life is just so nice and easy for them, everything works for them, you don't have to scratch too deep underneath the surface to see they are going through something. There's some sickness, some health problems, some drug. So there is something that, because we human beings, we always want more and more and more. So if you can analyze a day, plan a day, then you can plan a week, then you can plan a month, then you can plan 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. Before you know, your life has gone from chaos to commitment to discipline to being strategized life. And this is exactly what I'm trying to say to you. Whatever is going on in your life today, you are the major key. You are the difference between winning and losing, between success and failure. So you've always been the major key. So I'm just simply trying to remind you that you are the major key. Regardless of these obstacles, regardless of the challenges, regardless of where you've come from. I mean, I've come from the street, like with basic education, like the basic education. I'm talking about basic. But I got one day and decided I want to be more than I am. I've lived in the street, I've lived in sheds, I've lived in like trash side, like dumping side, I've lived everywhere. But I made the decision like, look, I want to work on myself. I want to improve on myself. I want to go and study something. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to a higher education to get education. No, you can start educating yourself. That's why it's called personal development, self-development. Like Jim Brown says, work harder on yourself than on your job. Why? Because you are what they say we get in life. I think it was like, was it Les Brown who says, you get in life what you are, not your desires, what you have. Because we human beings, we are value based. So the minute you start working on yourself, the minute you start growing yourself, the minute you start developing yourself, you get more attention, you get more value, you get more notice, you increase grand by grand, stand by stand. You can do more than that. Like, look, there is more to you than you actually know. There's more to you than actually know. Why? Because you are full of potential. You are full of potential. But don't give in to one failure, one obstacle. You are made to win. You are made to shine. You are made to flourish. You are made to succeed. We are competing some kind of competition one way or the other. Is it either you're competing in a sport in your workplace? I remember the other day my wife telling me like she's doing very well in her workplace, and one of her colleagues just came and said to her, just having a conversation, like joking about it. And she was just focusing on her work, trying to be the best she can be, creating value every day, just like we've discussed at home. And we just focus on becoming the best we can be. And so she's focusing on becoming the best she can be by just taking extra, paying extra attention, doing extra, doing more research, basically giving more than she's been paid for. And then that has impacted on her growth. She's moving up the ladder as fast as possible. And then so she's been talked about. So one of her colleagues now came the other day and said to her, look, well, you are my challenge, in this role. For me to grow, I have to make sure I work harder than you. And basically what I'm trying to say is she is growing without actually focusing on other people. She's focusing on herself. She's growing herself, disciplining herself, committing herself. She's sacrificing other things just because she wants to get better. She wants to become the best she can. So even at that, she's just concentrating on herself, but then she's still in the competition. So life is a competition. Life is the biggest competition of all. No one wants to come to this. No one goes to a competition and wants to go home in the last place with no trophy, no recognition at all. People go into competition to win. So once you're on this planet, you're in some sort of competition or the other. The biggest competition of all. But the only difference is you are actually competing against yourself. Why? Because it's only you that can tell you to stop. It's only you that can say, I'm not capable. It's only you that can say, look, I'm not smart enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not tall enough. It's only you that can say that to you. And the minute you say that, means you are stopping, you're giving up, you're thinking you're not capable. Because if you keep pushing, there's always, like they say, there's always a space for you. There's always something you can improve on. There's always something you can work on. There's always something you can push yourself on. Like, I remember when I went to uni, I felt so outplaced. Like, I never thought I was smart as this kid. I mean, I came from the street, basically coming from the street and going to one of the best universities in Scotland. I felt lost every day. Even when I went to work for some of the big corporations, I felt out of place. But I was saying to myself, look, I'm not good at this, I've got to improve on it. I'm not good at this, I've got to improve on it. So I picked a few things on myself and then start working on those things. And as I worked, I got better. Every step I got better, and then I improved. And I started speaking better, started writing better, started reading better. I was working on myself, and things were getting better. So basically, if you can analyze a day, just one day, and see how you can make that day perfect for you, how you can put that day into what you want it to be, just one day, and then you can apply that to a week, plan your month. Sometimes it's either difficult or easy decisions. That's really the difference. Like, before we take a lot of actions, and most time we could see the outcome before we actually start. Like, sometime being human, you can plan out the future. We can see into the future, unlike other animals. So you don't need to go to some religious center or future tellers or whatever to actually tell you the future, because we can all see the future. I mean, not clearly at first, but like every 100-mile walk, we'll see the other 100-mile clearer, because now we've gathered more experience. We've understood the terrain. We know where to put our feet and where not to. So we can tell the future. That's why when you lie to yourself, even before you do, when you're not committing yourself, when you're not giving 100%, when you're just going along for the sake of going along, So everything we do, we actually know. We know we're doing good, we know we're doing bad. We know when we push harder and when we shouldn't. But this is all on you. Nothing can hold you back. So sometimes we want to do easier things because it's easy, funny, simple. But those easy, simple, funny things, we don't grow by doing that. We don't stretch by doing it. We don't challenge ourselves by doing that. It's like having an adult who is always playing an under 10 tournament. Of course, you're going to keep winning and winning and winning, but are you getting better? Are you improving? No. So it's easy to keep doing the easy thing, getting the recognition, but are you developing yourself? Are you growing yourself? Are you increasing your value? What about your what? Where do you plan to be in the next 1 year, 6 months, 2 years? Are you okay with where you are? So the future you want is based on the actions you take. Because the actions you take now will determine the future you want. It's simple. The actions you take now would build the future you want. Take someone who stays in a house, never wanting to go to work, never just hoping they're gonna, scheme on other people. Before you know, you become, what was it called? I think Jordan Peterson called it functional numbness. Because when you're not contributing, you might think cheating other people, but you're actually killing yourself. You're killing your instinct to fight. You're killing your instinct to develop, because everything about you wants a shortcut. So what I'm saying, we all know we have the power within us to take today and make it the tomorrow we want. So whatever you want tomorrow to be, it's okay. It's really fine. It's really up to you. But it's up to you to let your action today bring about the tomorrow you want. For me, life is like, baking a bread. It's easy. So why don't everyone bake bread? I mean, maybe time. Some people rather buy it. Maybe skills. Maybe we haven't got the recipe. Or maybe our cupboards are empty. Or not having, some people have a grandma's winning bread recipe and some don't. And maybe, we don't want to bake the bread the best we know. We're trying to maybe take other people's award-winning recipes and grandma recipes, or just we don't like bread, or we're not patient enough to wait for the bread to rise. So basically, there's a lot of things you can do that is easy, simple, with incremental difficulties, but sometimes we're just not patient enough to give it time to rise. There's an experiment they do, it's called deferred gratification. They say some people they can't defer gratification. Like whatever it's reached, they want it now. That's why some people indulge in some healthy food, fast food, and because they want the instant buzz, the instant gratification, the instant high. So you have to see, for me, life is like, it's like baking a bread. It's like playing a card. You get a card, whatever card you've been given, that's what you've been given. But the best you can play that card, it's the best you can. I remember growing up, in the streets of Lagos. I mean, gambling most time, doing all sorts of things, throwing dice. But most time when I'm involved in those situations, when you have the dice in your hand, the best you can do is just to throw the best dice you can. It's the same dice for everyone, but when you throw the dice, it comes out in different random numbers. But you don't just quit the one, you try again and again. So life is basically like throwing the dice. You have 2 dice in your hand, you throw it out, whatever you get. That's the best you can do with what you've got. You can't demand a special dice for yourself. No, life is like that. The minute you start noticing, this is the best I have, this is the best I have. Now the question is, what can I do with the best of what I've got? That's your focus. What can you do with what you've got? Not demanding what someone else has. Of course, they might have a better life than you. They might come from a richer parent than you. They might live in the best neighborhood than you. They have different cars, houses, mansion. But that's not you. That's got nothing to do with you. It might be left to them by their parent, their grandparent, whatever. No. They might look different from you. That's got nothing to do with you. But as far as you're on this earth, you can decide what you want and go for it. So I'm not saying you're not going to fail. Of course, you're going to fail more time than you're ever going to win. But not trying is the biggest failure of all. When Gretzky says you lose 100% of the shots you never take, that's exactly it. Not trying is the biggest failure of all. You can never, complain about how someone is getting everything good. Of course, but that's not you. So focus on yourself. What can you do to elevate yourself? What can you do to change the life you're living, the life of your people, the life of your community, the life of your family? What can you do? So remember, it's all on you. Whether you decide to take action or hide from it, you decide to neglect it or run from it, it's your moral responsibility. And the abandonment of that responsibility creates the environment around you. So it's either it creates the environment that you want, or it creates the environment that's against you. Like I keep saying this, when you forgo your responsibility, you forgo your future. It's totally, you've taken it out of your hand. When you say this has nothing to do with me, you better be ready to live with whatever happens around you, because you are giving away your responsibility. They say what makes us happy is responsibilities, not just chasing happiness. Because as human, every time we accomplish something, we enjoy it for a bit and we want something else. That is, we take on more responsibility. We take up another challenge. We chase something else. We go after something else. We're not just happy for the sake of happy. We're happy because of action. Something happens in some sort. And remember, then how can you forgo your responsibility and want to be happy? Because the two go side by side, responsibility and happiness. You step into a competition, you don't get awarded the trophy, you get the trophy by going through the competition, beating everyone in that competition and winning. In that, you never just be happy for turning up to the tournament or competition and you handed the trophy without no responsibility, without having taken the challenges. They say the unhappiest people are those people who've never had the opportunity to prove themselves, who've never overcome obstacles to say, yes, I've proven myself to myself. There is far more to you than you would like to believe, or that you've been made to believe. Whether you work to its full potential, it's up to you. So it's really up to you to decide you want to grow, you want to develop, you want to work to your full potential, you want the best in you, you want to use it to help yourself, your family, your community, but you want to grow. So whether you do that, it's really up to you. You see, when it's very powerful when we discover this, that there's actually more to us than we thought. There is actually more to us than we thought. We are more than we actually think we are. We are extremely more than we know or we've meant to believe. Sometimes it's just as easy as thinking, what good could I do to myself, to my family, to my community? How could I improve myself? How could I grow? How could I work on myself? How could I become the best I want to be? Sometimes even just with the least effort. When we start believing, like, look, when you start believing about functionality, functionality, like, what is my function? What is my role? What's my responsibility? And then you could start from where you are and say, okay, right now, I'm basically contributing nothing. I am adding nothing. I'm not growing anyway. Like, if you can see yourself for who you are now, they say every success starts with admitting who you are, where you are right there, because you can't fix what's not broken. So by admitting, like, this is where I am right now, maybe everything is against me, everything is not working for me, but what can I change? What is the smallest thing I can change? What is the least thing I could do to start me on this journey? Just think of how much you matter. And if you can't think of that, think of what matters most to you and start from that and start to work on that. Start to improve in that. Start to grow with that. And then you see, you start going from strength to strength, from discipline to discipline, growth to growth, commitment to commitment, sacrifice. They say life is, it was Jim Rohn that said this, life is a challenge. If you doubt that, none of us is going to make it out alive. None of us is going to make it out alive. So that is the biggest competition. So now you know, none of us is going to make it out alive. If you don't know, I've brought it to your attention. So what do you do while you're here? What do you do while you're here? Do you just want to turn up to the competition and just go home? Or do you want to work to get noticed? Do you want to work to get something? Do you want to work for a position or something? Because at the end of the day, none of us is going to make it alive. Especially when we might have some people who come from us, who look up to us, who have to pass on something onto now. Do you want to pass on the burden to them, or at least start them on an even playing field? For all you've complained about, you never had, things never worked. Do you want to put another person in that same position? Or do you at least want to work towards something for them to have, at least to start them on the right foot? If you grew up living in the shack, on the street, begging for food to eat, no education at all, do you want to bring someone into this world and let them go through the same thing as you, or you want to give them a better playing field? Like, look, I'm speaking to myself most time, and especially to those who have come from the same place as me, those who've grown up on the street, those who had no house, no food, no shelter, those who are actually not sure about how the next meal is going to come or where they're going to sleep. I'm speaking to those people, as far as speaking to myself, like myself 10, 15, 20 years ago. Like, if I knew I was more than I was, then I could have gone further than where I am today. I'm speaking to me 20 years ago. Me that was on the street, me that had no education, me that had no prospect in life, me that never thought all the places I've been today, spoken to people, I could never get that. I'm speaking to that me. Like, if I had someone tell me, like, look, life is difficult. You see all those rich kids and whatever, don't worry about that. If you can work on yourself and grow yourself and become the best you can, those kids have nothing in you. They might have all the access in life. They might go to the best universities to put them into the best roles. So sometimes it's not about getting the roles, but when you get to that place, you have more commitment to them. You faced more obstacles than them. You have more resilient than them. That me, if I could speak to that me like today and say, look, whatever you're going to do is not the end of the world. Whatever you are, all these things that's happening around you is going to pass. And everything I've gone through is past today. I'm here as a 100% record of success. Why? Because all the sleeping on the street, I've overcame that. All the sleeping in the shack, overcame that. No food to eat, I overcame that. Not having a good education to start, I've overcame that. Being able to speak, I've overcame that. Being able to write, I've overcame that. Being able to read, I've overcame that. Communicating clearly and precisely, I've overcame that. So all the things were the biggest obstacle to me growing up. If I could have spoken to myself and said, look, man, don't worry about those things. You are better than this. You're going to outgrow this thing. You're going to outperform this thing. You're going to look back and like, wow, if only I knew this earlier enough and start trying. So I'm speaking to myself, to who I was before, who always saw everything around me as failure, as limited, as I couldn't break through, as I couldn't do this, as I couldn't do that. I'm speaking to that me. I'm speaking to that me who always saw my limitation, my weaknesses, my difficulties, my challenges, my obstacles, the mountain placed in front of me. I'm speaking to that me to say, look, you are more than you are. You can do more than you think you are doing right now. You are bigger than where you are right now. These obstacles, challenges, everything around you, they amount to nothing. They will disappear with time. But you just have to stick in there. You just have to keep growing. You just have to keep believing. You just have to. You can never give up. They said in the Bible, Abraham always sacrificed, young lamb to God. That's to show how serious he was, that he always takes live animal and sacrifice them to show, look, I'm not messing about here. I'm sacrificing this thing because to show himself, like maybe to God, but more to himself to say, look, maybe to God he's saying, look, I'm giving you my best lamb, but to himself he's saying, look, I'm very serious about this, and that's why I'm going to take this newborn lamb, cut it, and then sacrifice it. So sometimes we need to give ourselves the push we need. We need something to push us, to wake us up, to drive us, that discipline, that fight, that innate spirit that tells us, look, you are more than you are. Don't allow the current situation to hold you down. Don't allow the obstacles to hold you down. Don't allow the challenges to hold you down. There is something in you that's greater than all this. There's something in you that's more powerful than all this. You would become that which you want to be if you keep striving, if you keep pushing, if you never give up. Now and then I go back to the street I came from, and I still see the same people who were there 20 years ago. Some still living the same life, and while others have moved on. So it's not because we that made it out of the slum, out of the shack, out of the street, it's not because we had a better opportunity than those who never made it. No, it was because there's something in us that never stopped. There was something in us that kept pushing us forward. There was something in us that knew no bounds of giving up. There was something in us that kept us going. There's something in us that never knew no. That even when everything fell on us, we stood up and we pushed further. I remember traveling to tournaments all around the world, losing, not even making it to the main draw. I remember traveling to tournaments, not having money to get myself back to my home. Back to the street I came from. I remember turning up to tournament, not even having a tennis racket or a shoe for that matter, tennis shoe for that matter. And I've turned up to tennis tournament to borrow racket from someone, to borrow socks from someone, to borrow shoe from someone. I actually remember representing the country without having a tennis racket, having to borrow someone else's racket to go and represent a country. Can you imagine that? So, Bob, I remember all these challenges never stopped me. I just looked for how can I overcome today. So that's why I said at the beginning of this, take a day as a full plan and analyze that day. What is your plan for today? Have you some written down goals, some written down plans, some written down things you have to do, work on, or is your plan just a blank piece of paper? And if there's nothing in it, that gives you the opportunity to start writing something. Look into yourself. You can find things that grows you, things that challenges you, things that wants to make you at least live where you are today for a better tomorrow. Do something today that could enhance you tomorrow. There is always something in you. Like I keep saying, I'm not actually speaking to anyone but the me 20 years ago and the people who are like me 20 years ago, who never had anyone to encourage them, anyone to push them, anyone to support them, anyone to tell them, like, look, man, you can do this. Anyone to put a hand around their shoulder and say, keep trying, keep pushing. I'm speaking to that me. That me that never gave up, that me. But then, no, I go around today and I see a lot of people. Very few people have people to motivate them, people to encourage them. We are on the world now where we all want to discuss is about someone else's scandal, someone else's downfall. You all see all the blogs these days, it's all about scandal of some sort, some disruption. That's all. Our focus is all on the negative, all on the negative. And then we wonder why everyone wants to be rich by doing whatever they can, or noticed by doing whatever they can, because all we celebrate is negativity. That's the scandal. Like everyone wants to, like, you open the social media today, there's like thousands of people trying to speak about the same scandal again and again from different views, and you see how much views they're getting, because everyone just wants to feel at least I'm doing better than someone today. I'm not such in a bad condition as that person today. So while we all focusing on how things are for other people compared to us, we're not growing ourselves. We're not focusing on how we could grow ourselves, how we could develop ourselves, how we could work on ourselves, how we could become more. So I'm saying, to that same me that decided and stood up and said, look, I want to do this. I want to go and educate myself. I want to read more. I want to write more. I want to at least work for some of the biggest companies to say, like, look, I can done this. I done it. Like, I'm moving on to something else. That me that came from nothing and was able to do that. I'm speaking to that man and say, look, you did it, and you could do more. You just have to. So they say for every mile or 100-mile walk, we'll see clearer. Now I've walked some thousands of miles, and or maybe millions of miles. I mean, talking from now, 20 years ago to now. And I can see better pictures, clearer pictures. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't have to end where you are. Where you are, once you start from there, you can better yourself. You can improve on yourself. You can work on yourself. You can do something that's different from what you've done yesterday. That in itself is growth. If it's positive, if it's leading you to where you want to go, you can always start small. I remember always discussing with my mates, always talking about trying to start businesses of different sorts. And he always talks about starting big. He's like a big thinker, he talks about starting big, and But I always say, look, starting big is good. But if you start big, most time, where are you gonna go from there? Plus the risk, it's like the risk could put you under. But when you start small, there's massive room for growth. When you start small, your potential to grow is unlimited. And if you feel like most of us are gonna do, then you haven't fallen really far. You could pick yourself up again and start all over again, rather than falling from like a 20-foot story. That one fall might be your death. That one fall might be the last of your existing. But if you fall from maybe a story, maybe a broken leg, ankle or something, you get healed and you start again. So trying to start small, because most of us, we're going to fall. Like they say, most of the companies fail in the first 2 years or so. So most time the likely chance of you failing is there, but at least you live to start again. You will have learned from your mistakes. So that mistake wouldn't have been your last, because if you fell from a 10-story building, that could have been your last mistake. But if you fall from 1-story building, now you've learned what not to do. So always start small, always grow, always believe you could do more. It really is you. It really is you. There's nothing that can tell all the obstacles, all the ups and downs, all the challenges, everything around you. There is nothing that can actually tell you no but you. There's nothing that can stop you but you. you are in control. That's what you have to understand. Like, you are in control. It's only you that could tell yourself no, regardless of how good or bad it is. It's only you. Sometimes you go out for a run. I used to run before my knees start, giving me issues. Now I use my bike. But sometimes after I start the first 10 minutes, my body's like, oh no, you've got to stop. And then the next half an hour is like, all right, yeah, no, now you're feeling better. Then after half an hour, I feel I could go for another hour. And then when I've done the hour, my mind is telling me, oh, you got to stop. But my body's like, you're fine. Or my body's saying you got to stop. But my mind is saying you're fine. So even when you think you've done the best you can, there is still room for growth. You could still do more. You could still add few seconds to few minutes, even hour, because they said we're only using 10% of our brain. So you always have more capacity than you would ever need. That's the truth. You're operating like on a 10% of what you can actually do. The power in you, it's more. Like they say in the church, the power vested in you or on the court of law. So the power in you, it's more than you can imagine. The me that actually took myself out from where I was and said, look, I have got to go and do something different. I'm not different from the same people I came from, the same street from. Jim Rohn talks about this twin that came from an abusive parent, and one of them just became abusive, just like the parent, drunk and whatever. And he always had an excuse and saying, look, my dad was a drunkard, so I am a drunkard. My dad was abusive, so I'm abusive. But the other kid took a different route. It was like, I haven't gone through what I've gone with my dad. There's no way I could be like my dad. There's no way I could do exactly like him. I had choose to be different. So what I'm saying, basically, it doesn't matter where you start from. It doesn't matter the disadvantages. It doesn't matter the obstacles. It really is your choice. You're never going to have the same education as everyone, live in the same house as everyone, have a rich parent like everyone, have the right job like everyone, walk into the best job like everyone, work in the city, in Wall Street. Like, no, have a private education, have a yacht, a country house. You're not going to have that start like everyone. But you could have all that if you decide that's your why and that's what you want to work at. You're going to find the how to it. Will Smith talks about in his book. He says, like, where we start from, it's not our choice. Like, we are born into our country, our skin colors, even how smart you are sometimes is based on your gene. So sometimes it's not actually up to you. It's based on the genes you're born with. So, but where you go, it's totally up to you. If you want to sit there and make excuses for the rest of your life, it's totally up to you. But if you want to say, look, this is what I've got, this is the best I have gotten, I can't change who I am. I can't change my skin color. I can't change my height. I can't change the country I was born into. I can't change even the street I was born into. But what can I do with where I am today? And that's the real you. The you that asks yourself, like, what can I improve today? What can I work on today? How can I better myself today? The you that focuses on yourself, that is you. Most of us always run to other people when we have problem at a religious center. We always run into people or something for the solution in our lives. But we forget to look in the one place, the only place we should start from ourselves. Why am I in this situation? Why am I going this? What can I do first? Of course, it's good to seek answers, to seek help, to ask for assistance when you don't have all this. But first, ask yourself the question: what can I change? What could I have done differently? What is it I can bring to the table that no other person can bring? And because in this world, we all have responsibility. We all have responsibilities. And when you forgo your responsibility, I keep saying this, when you forgo your responsibility, you forgo your future. So when I go back to the street I came, there were some people there who, like me, not that I'm luckier than them, not that I'm smarter than them, not that I have anything more than them. In fact, I'm more disadvantaged than them because some of them are older than me. And even sometimes we have the same family members like us who have exactly everything like us, but they've decided to go the other way. They decided to stay and complain. They decided to look at what other people have. You see, I was listening the other day. I'm a follower of 50 Cent and Curtis Jackson. You know, I like how he moves. I like how he's transformed himself from a rapper to a mogul. You know, going from writing, making rap songs, which I love. I grew up on American hip hop, to now, creating movies and TV shows. I like that transformation, that growth. But the other day, I was I think I was on IG or something, or Facebook or one of the social media, and I saw there was a post from his son Marcus, who, if you listened to me before, you will have heard me talk about Marcus when I was talking about entitlement. Marcus and 50 Cent, baby mama Shaniqua. When 50 Cent was talking about in his book Hustle Harder, Shaniqua and Marcus, and I was talking about entitlement. So the kid came online and said, $81,000 a year is not enough for him to live on. $81,000 a year is not enough for him to live on. So they broke that down to $6,700 a month. He says that wasn't enough for him to live on. And now, $81,000, $6,700 a month for someone who is not working, who has no contribution, who has no responsibility. He said that wasn't enough for him to live. He made the excuses that he was living in New York, that he couldn't survive on that was too, it wasn't enough. And I begin to think about the book I've read and some of my old videos about entitlement. Entitled people are always entitled. To earn $6,700 a month after tax, that means you have to, in New York, you have to work at least 60 hours a week. 60 hours a week. That's for at least a middle range. I would say at least a middle range, a working class person. At least, okay, let's say maybe 40 hours a week. 40 hours a week. And let's say for the average role, like working in your coffee shops or something, like you have to work up to 60 to 100 hours a week. And even some graduate bankers in Wall Street don't even get that. I'm talking about graduate bankers. Some, not all. Some start on, 100, 200 grand. And even, okay, let's talk about the graduate bankers that are starting on 100, 200 grand. For them to start a job of 100, 200 grand, they're working 17 hours. I see this every day. The guys in the street, at least 17 hours a day. 17 hours a day, sometimes more than 12 hours a day. So everyone was going about, these bankers are on 100 grand, 200 grand. It's graduate training. Some of them are working more than 12 hours a day to be on like 100 grand per annum. So someone is sitting there, they're not doing nothing, they're earning almost 100 grand per annum, and they complain that it's not enough. So that's what I'm saying. There will always be those people who complain. There will always be those people who moan. There will always be those people who blame. There will always be those people who think nothing ever is good for them. Don't let that be you. Even in the Bible, I think Jesus says there will always be the poor, but don't be among them, because there will always be those people who criticize everything around them but them. But don't let that be you. Don't let that be you. So can you imagine? Now, for someone to walk into this Wall Street job that pays over 100 grand per annum, they will have been at the best private school, as a primary school, where they pay at least, $30,000 a term. They will have been at the best high school, where they pay at least between 30 to 50 grand a year. They will have been at the best university. I'm talking about the Ivy League universities, where they pay at least up to 100 grand a year. So you could see the trend of these people being through the best of the best. That's for them just to have access to work. That doesn't mean where they're going to go from there, but that's just to give them access to walk into these roles as a start. But you can see how much their parents have invested and how much they have invested themselves. Sometimes to be able to walk into this best job, you need to go to the best universities. And someone once said, the interviews for all the best jobs happens at the best universities. So sometimes you're walking into this best job because you've come from the best universities, because they know, like, getting into these best universities is so hard. Like, I'm talking about your Harvard, your Georgetown, your Columbia, your Princeton, your Yale, Oxford, Cambridge. Sometimes to get into these universities is so hard that once you make it in there is already available job, because they know that for you to make it in there, you are one of the best. It doesn't mean like you are one of the best in something. So for someone to have gone through all this and they earning 100 grand a year, and you are there complaining about earning 81 grand a year for doing nothing. So there would always be those people who complain about something. Nothing is okay for them. All I'm saying is that should not be you. Don't let that should never be you. Don't be that person. Be the person who thinks, look, things are not good right now, but I'm going to make the best of what I have. I'm going to play the best card I have. What else could you do? Instead of just degenerating and dropping into yourself, and before you know, you're becoming smaller and smaller. What else can you do to get yourself out of the situation you are right now, out of where you are right now, of what are you doing? How can you grow yourself? How can you develop yourself? How can you become more than you are yesterday, or more than you are 20 years ago? I'm speaking to myself 20 years ago. Like, if I knew what I know now, I would have started working earlier. I would have started reading earlier. I would start writing earlier. I would have started associating with people earlier, listening earlier. I would have started to do a lot of things that will have pushed me further than where I am today. But like, look, on the street, on the street is like the wild, the jungle. No one puts their hand around you and say, come on, you're doing well. Everyone wants to utilize you. Everyone wants to take advantage of you. Everyone wants to think for you. So it really is up to you to say, look, today, this is where I am today. Where do I go from here? How do I plan my day out? Am I content? It really is up to you. It's on you. No other person will change until you change.